Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tech Dialogues. Thank you for joining us. Do feel free to share the link, use the comment section to tell us where you're watching from, and to ask any questions you may have. Really, really glad to have you with us, and I'm really excited to welcome a really special guest with us today in this edition of Navigating a Career in Cybersecurity. And I know this has been a long awaited one. So, to introduce our speaker, today we have Rae McElroy, and she is a cybersecurity GRC consultant who specializes in the CMMC ecosystem and is the founder of Cybersloth Security and Technology, with a background in software engineering, business analysis, and entrepreneurship. She focuses on helping small businesses and contractors to better understand cybersecurity compliance, audit readiness, and risk management in a practical and approachable way. And as a career pivoter herself into cybersecurity, Rae is passionate about making tech and compliance feel more accessible to people entering the industry from non traditional backgrounds. She currently serves as a nice cybersecurity career ambassador, mentor with NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center and Women in Tech initiatives, and she supports workforce development programs and is focused on helping future tech professionals grow with confidence. As a CMMC registered practitioner, Rae is currently pursuing her CCP and future CCA pathway within the CMMC ecosystem, while continuing to advocate for education, mentorship, and workforce development in cybersecurity. And with that, welcome, Rae.
Hi, how are you?
I am great. It is fantastic to have you with us.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Wonderful. So we'll dive right in. And before we sort of get into the technical side, could you please just walk us through your journey? Where did it really begin for you?
Yes. Oh, it's been quite a journey, that's for sure. But so it began, well, just my background, like you stated. My degree is in criminal justice. I worked in the legal field prior to the pandemic, so my background is not in tech. Um, During the pandemic, I was laid off, which I ended up starting a digital newspaper, which originally was for female founders. I would provide business resources and grants. It was my little way of staying motivated during the pandemic. That eventually led me to my first government contract, which I was providing community outreach and surrounding around workforce development. Um, that eventually led me to needing full-time income versus like a passion project slash hobby. And then I transitioned over to tech. So I was producing career opportunities through the newspaper, and I pretty much took up one of the opportunities that I presented. And from there, spoke with my business advisor and told him I would like to pivot into tech. I didn't know which domain, um, but I shared with him with that. And then he kind of, I always say it fell into my lap. Cybersecurity fell into my lap, and it was the best um, lane that fit my background that I could easily transfer having a degree in criminal justice. I thought cybersecurity was like the digital world of crime. So by having this degree, I thought it would be easy to transfer, but it wasn't easy, but it was transferable. And it kind of just took off from there. And while building up my skill set and my knowledge, I founded Cybersloth Security and Technology before I even was officially considered a technologist or even had any clients. So that's kind of like a fast version of my story.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think quite a few people can relate to that. And another question, I guess you've worn many hats, as you've mentioned, throughout your career, sort of software engineering, analyst, and entrepreneur, and now you're a cybersecurity consultant. How did you prepare, or how did each chapter prepare you for the next almost?
Yeah, I've done a lot of different things, and I think that each one has prepared me for the next step. It's never been right after the other, but every experience played a part. So whether I had to sit it on the backside for a second, everything all comes in alignment at some point. So I have this philosophy that failure is data. I even titled that as my first book, and everything that seemed like a failure or that it didn't work out for me eventually became data, and I learned from it and I utilized it in the future at some point in time. So I would say, like, entrepreneurship taught me resilience. It taught me not to give up. It taught me how to pivot. It taught me how to create opportunities when there were no opportunities available. Software engineering taught me confidence. That was like the hardest thing that I ever felt like I had to do career wise. And it taught me how to navigate complex situations, um, and how to problem solve better. Business analyst side taught me how to ask better questions and be inquisitive and not be afraid to speak up. And cybersecurity kind of ties all those in. So all those different aspects and all those different hats that I've worn, cybersecurity is like the umbrella to all of it. None of those things I would feel like I had to do were a waste of time or a failure. It just was preparing me for the next opportunity or for the overall big picture eventually that I would have. So I definitely think that if anything that you're going through, you feel like, oh, this didn't work out or it's a waste of time, it's going to come together full circle at some point. And I firmly believe by that.
Yeah, and I think especially now with the current job market, I feel like there is a sort of feeling of discouragement at the moment,
Yes.
especially with people that are either trying to, maybe they've been made redundant, they're trying to find a new career, or they're trying to transition. I think there is that feeling of discouragement. So that's really encouraging. And then someone's actually asked in the chat, what transferable skills did you have? And how did you display that when moving to cyber? And they've mentioned that they work in compliance. So you did mention that you saw that there may be some fits with cyber, especially cyber GRC and your
Mhm.
previous experience. How did you figure this out? And then how did you sort of display these transferable skills in a way that showed that you would add value to this new sort of career path?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I know you hear that it's like a buzzword, but it's true. You have these skills, but to answer the question directly, so I worked in the legal field as a legal secretary and process server. So when I would serve certain documents, um, at medical offices, we had to follow a strict protocol. Not 100% HIPAA, but there were certain things that I had to follow under HIPAA guidelines. So that was a transferable skill that I had. Learning certain legal um, terminologies and things like that allowed me to understand and just have knowledge on the compliance side of how to stay in regulation and things like that. Those were my transferable skills. A lot of the courses and classes that I had to take to receive my criminal justice degree. So, like, some of the classes were like digital forensics and report writing, and those things kind of transfer over to like policy development, things like that. You'd be surprised how many everyday things that you do in your role that can transfer over to tech. So I think once you find out which domain you're interested in pivoting to, look at certain job descriptions and see what they're asking of you, and then ask yourself, what have I done that's similar to this? And then when you write your resume, you kind of change the wording based off of what you've seen in job descriptions that can describe the skill set that you already have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do think that people also they tend to disqualify themselves before they actually do that evaluation that you did.
Yes.
And I like what you mentioned about how sometimes you don't realize how many of the everyday things you do in your current role um,
Hmm.
literally the skill sets you need for a career, especially within cybersecurity. So thank you for that. Another question for you. What was a defining moment or a turning point when you knew that cybersecurity was the path you wanted to commit to? I know within our community we have people that are exploring tech in general, so they're sort of testing the waters to see what they
Mhm.
like, where they fit. How did you know that cyber was where you would thrive and that's the area that maybe you should be in?
If I'm being honest, it fell into my lap. I was going through a personal transition in life, so I was needing to have solid income, not just income from my digital newspaper as a stay-at-home mom and just having a little passion project on the side, or as I say, like shopping money. That's all it was coming in from the newspaper. So I was now responsible for, taking care of myself. So I needed something, and at the time, the only thing that I could think of in that moment that was what I thought would be fast, was pivoting into tech. I didn't have a specific domain. When I expressed this to my business advisor that I need to switch into tech because at that time all you heard was, six-figure career pathways. And I was like, I need that. And if I'm being honest, it was a survival tactic. However, once I really dove in and focused and said this was going to be the path that I was going to take, cybersecurity itself was almost handed to me. And then, like I said, once I did some research and realized how I can connect my past experience and degree and make it relevant to cybersecurity, that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. However, I had to still double down and figure out which domain within cyber because cyber is so broad. Um, so I had to do that. I had to figure that out first. And it was really about survival, if I'm being honest. And then once I discovered the domain, it was a good fit. So I
Mhm.
was like, I can do this. I believe that I have a way to make my mark here. I just have to double down and gain my skill set and my confidence. And that's what I did.
No, and absolutely. And sometimes it happens like that, doesn't it? And of course, like you take an opportunity, you see you really like it, or you pivot, you see you don't like it. So it's also a good
Right.
opportunity to be open-minded. And for those that are thinking about cybersecurity GRC, what is cybersecurity GRC? Because I know we're both cyber professionals in
Yes.
GRC. Others, it's sort
Yes.
of like, okay, seems good, but what exactly is the job?
Right. So obviously GRC is the governance, risk, and compliance. The simple way that I like to explain it is your house, right? So the governance for your home would be how are you protecting your home? Maybe you have cameras, maybe you have a ring, maybe you have like a smart lock or something like that. And then there's the risk. So even if you have these doors locked and you have these cameras, there's still a risk, right? So you get homeowners insurance or renters insurance or something like that to offset any additional risk. And then the compliance aspect would be who's overseeing that all these security measures are in place, and can you prove it and show us that you really have. So is that the dad checking the home at night? What's the standard procedure for making sure your home is protected at night, and then someone has that in writing. But it sounds more complicated than what it is, but I don't think GRC is as complex. It's just, who's responsible for protecting your business. Um, what happens if something goes wrong and how much risk are you willing to accept? And then the compliance side is double checking and making sure that you're saying that you're doing what you're saying that you are actually doing. So those are how the three governance, risk, and compliance work together.
Yeah, no, agreed. And that's a great way to pull it together. Thank you for that. We've actually got another question in the comments. Someone has
Okay.
asked, with cyber GRC jobs, will cyber GRC jobs increase with AI? Will this affect the profession much? Which is an
I love these AI questions. As I always like to say, humans are AI, right? We're the ones teaching it, we're feeding it, we're training it. So as long as we're doing that, AI is gonna need us. There is a AI governance aspect that has been implemented now, so that's still a role. And I don't think that AI will replace it. I think AI is here to work alongside us, but it's still going to always need that human final oversight or just decision. So if you can learn how to use AI as your assistant and look at it in that aspect versus is AI going to take over, our roles, then you'll better learn how to sharpen your skills and work alongside AI.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you, especially in the area of cybersecurity or sensitive domains like that. And I think
Mhm,
with new laws coming out and people now thinking a bit more around AI governance and AI security, I do
mhm.
think there's a space as well an opportunity that will grow for cyber professionals and security professionals as a whole. So yeah, thank you. All right, another question. Um, Again, to do with the career pivots. Career pivots take quite a bit of courage.
Mhm.
What made you keep going in moments that you doubted yourself? You mentioned sort of imposter syndrome, which a lot of us we go through and we suffer from, especially when maybe we're new to the industry.
Mhm.
What motivated you to keep going? And actually, another question in the chat has asked, and maybe I can merge both of them together.
Okay.
Was there ever a moment you wanted to quit the pivot entirely, and what stopped you? So, what kept you going?
Yes. So one, what kept me going is I don't like to lose. I really don't like to lose. So when I have my mind set on something, I try my best to follow through with it. Um, So this pivot was something that I knew I had to do. I had to build a new foundation, and I didn't really have a lot of time to dedicate for a career like becoming a nurse or becoming a doctor that required so many years. Not saying that tech, you don't have to put in work or years, but I just needed something that I could lay a solid foundation and build on it fairly quickly. And how did I stay motivated? I just didn't want my circumstances to define the rest of my life. I didn't want to give up and feel like there was no other option. And I wanted to weigh out all my options. So if this didn't work out, I probably would have tried like another route within tech. If cybersecurity didn't work out, then I would have tried something else. But the overall is just, I don't want to lose to my circumstances. I want to create and be responsible and determine where my next move is. I never know the how, I just know the end result that I'm trying to get to. And that's what I focus on versus all the obstacles that come in my way. I can't hear you.
Apologies. Thank you so much
No
for that. I
worries.
was on mute. um, Also asked here and said, what sort of learnings should we undertake to get into the industry? Whether that's, I don't know,
um,
formalized learnings or, yeah.
I'm sorry, can you say it one more time?
Yeah, they've asked what sort of learning should we undertake to get into the industry. So I don't know if that's formalized learning or just work that you could do by yourself to build up certain skills. And what from your experience did you do to sort of to help yourself in terms of the knowledge needed?
So I would recommend the first thing is just doing some research. So
Mhm.
research within yourself. So self-reflect, what have you done? And then use AI and ask AI, I have these skills that I've worked these jobs and I'm looking to pivot into tech. If you don't know which domain or which field you want to get into, once again, ask AI, what would be the best fit? And then from there, do additional research, look at different roles within that field, utilize LinkedIn and look up some of the people that are already working in that field and just look at their feed, see what they're doing, see who they're talking to, what events they're involved in. Attend local events that you can and reach out to your workforce development departments and tell them what you're trying to do. That's their job to help those become, self-sufficient. So just doing, I always say the first 30 days should be a lot of like research yourself and research the opportunities before you dive in and commit to something that you're really not sure exactly where it could take you, because you're going to pivot. Like I started in software engineering. I did the boot camp. It was brutal, but it taught me, one, that this is not what I want to do. I don't want to code all day, but it also taught me how confident and how skillful and how to navigate through these spaces. So it was a good foundation for me. It wasn't the career pathway, but it was definitely a good foundation to get started and start carving out and figuring out which way to go next.
Yeah, absolutely. And agreed. Thank you. Someone has asked here, because you've mentioned as well that, cyber is quite broad. GRC is an element of cyber, but it can be
Mhm.
quite, there are different domains. So someone has said, what different cybersecurity industries are there? I'm guessing they mean like the different areas of cybersecurity
Mhm.
you could be able to work in.
Yeah, so obviously there's probably about maybe 15 different domains. Don't quote me exactly, but there's quite a few. So obviously there's GRC, incident responding, penetration testing. Um, let's see what else. Those are the ones I could think like really quick off the top of my head, but there are plenty different. Then there's red team, blue team. There's all these different um, pathways you can take, ethical hacking. It just depends on where your interests are, which is why I always say spend the first 30 days doing
So,
research, because there are different paths and you don't really know exactly. You don't want to marry this one field and then you discover that you have this passion for something else. You can always pivot, but that could save you a little bit of time, by knowing exactly where in which domain you want to be under.
agreed, yeah. And as you mentioned, that research part is really important because even when we break down those different areas, there are even smaller subsections within those subsections.
Hmm.
So it keeps going smaller and smaller. So I think
Yes.
AI is a good tool. I know for some people I mentor, I tell them to, yeah, like you mentioned, put in your skills, maybe what you're even interested in, and then ask it. What are these different roles? Is it maybe it's offensive, defensive, or GRC? Which of these sections do you think may match my current skill set and what I like to do?
Hmm.
Because you don't just also want to do something that is I don't know, popular, but or
Right.
matches your skill set, but you hate. Because I'm similar to you. I don't want to code. I don't really want to be super technical. I don't enjoy it.
Hmm.
So I know that I'm more, you know, pushed towards DRC, but you may not be. So put your CV through Claude or whatever is your preference, and ask it to help you decide what domain, and then explore it as you mentioned. Watch videos. Also
Hmm.
speak to people within your network. Reach out to people and just ask. Sometimes. Would you just mind telling me like what you actually do as your day job?
Right. Yeah. Ask questions
Yeah.
and see what they're doing. There's so
Mhm.
many events that you can attend locally, not
Yes.
just the expensive conferences, but the local ones where you can actually get close like this and speak with someone. And you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help you and,
Yeah,
connect you to other people.
absolutely, absolutely. And I like what you mentioned even about like events, because not every event is paid for. There are lots of free events, there are lots of free
Hmm.
resources now online. You don't even necessarily, of course, if you want to go for a paid course, you can feel free to invest. But even if you maybe are a job seeker, you don't want to spend any money, there's lots on YouTube, and so on. So yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question. So you're a CMMC registered practitioner pursuing
Hmm.
CCP and CCA. How did you decide which certificates are worth your time and money? And for our viewers that are not in your part of the world, what are those sort of certifications and what certifications and how did you decide which ones you needed to pursue and which ones were worth it? Because there's so much out there, especially
Yes.
now. Yes.
Yes. So when I got into the GRC space, um, I was handed, in a sense, the CMMC route. My business advisor kind of gave me this pathway and pretty much told me study this, and this would be your foot in the door. So my journey is a little different. So I want to be realistic, for this answer and say, I would start with what career do you want to build? What do you envision your life to look like? Do you want to sit in the office and be around your coworkers with a nice view? Do you want to work from home? Do you want to do both? Do you want to, be in a hybrid space? So envision what your everyday looks like, and then um, build your certifications around the life that you want versus building your career around your certifications. So a lot of times people have all these certifications, but either they can't land a job or they don't really know what to do. So I always say start with the end goal first. So whatever you picture, if you want your life to be your laptop open and you're having a nice, you know, matcha somewhere in the middle of the day, then what roles allow for that? So figure that out first. And then the certification that you should start with should be foundational that you can build off of. So if that's just, a certification that maybe you can study for 30 to 60 days and then take the exam and have that lays the foundation, but then that's something that you can build off of. So like for example, Security Plus, that's a foundational certification that it's almost universal, but it's a good solid one that you can build off of. So I would start there. And then, like I said, my journey is completely different. So I like telling my story, but I don't like to be compared to, because my path was totally different. So I don't have Security Plus or like those foundational. My foundation started in CMMC, which is a very niche industry. And then I got in fairly early because it's still new. But now that things are picking up in our industry and there's a higher demand, there's certifications now that I'm studying for, although I've been in the industry. So I'm like reverse engineering. So everyone's path is different, but like I said, build around the life you want and then have a foundational cert and build off of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that. The way that was phrased, that you build your certificates around the life you want and think about the end goal. And I think that's really important. I do think that when people are trying to enter a new profession, the first thing that occurs to them is certifications, and they sort of rush
Mhm.
towards it and rush towards learning and sort of are disappointed at the end when either they don't get a job or they don't get a job that they want, and because they are
Yes.
not taking that step back to think about the end goal and which certificates fit the life that they want to live. And it actually reminds me of a previous session we had at the beginning of the year in our tech and AI live. And someone mentioned as well that certifications don't get you jobs. You have to know how to use those certifications to land a role. And I think that is super important as well. Thank you. Okay, someone's
Mhm.
asked in the chat as well and has said, what are the typical interview questions you'd come across when applying for GRC roles?
Um, I think the typical questions are, like you said, around can you do the job? So a lot of, like walk me through an audit process. How would you start, you know, um, an audit with a client? How would you perform, certain aspects of the role? So depending on like the industry that you're in, it's going to ask those type of questions. So I think knowing knowing the role. So if you know how to do those things, so maybe you have the certifications, but you haven't had any hands-on experience. If you can gain that hands-on experience, even if it's something that you built on your own, you could
Mm.
walk through that process. So if you can speak about the role and what it looks like, those are the type of questions that they're going to ask outside of obviously, client facing questions, how to deal with people, those things, but they want to make sure that you actually know how to do the role.
Okay, yeah, and that's true. So in a case that maybe someone is either a graduate or they're new to GRC and they don't have previous like hands-on experience in a job, how can they maybe demonstrate that they can actually hit the ground running based on some like independent, how do they demonstrate these skills
I
without
think
having a
we I apologize. I think we're in a really good space right now. I know it sounds crazy because the job market is a little complex, but I think with the way technology is going, you can do everything that you need. So if you need to build skills, I know it sounds funny, but go to AI and ask AI, I want to build or I need to build out my portfolio. What are some home based projects that I can do. So like building a chat box. Maybe you can do something like that, or just finding things that is on your skill level that once you complete them, you're able to speak about them confidently. So we're in a really good time where you can utilize so many free resources. So not just the courses and watching, but literally asking AI to help guide you and opening up Notion or opening up whatever, suggestions that they make and help you do these projects. Start your GitHub and put all your projects on there. They don't have to be fancy and complex. The more you practice and the easier you're able to translate what you've done, that counts. So you have to just be creative and be self-sufficient and a self-starter and figure some of these things out and not just wait around for, internships or certain opportunities. You're going to have to create some for yourself.
Yes, yes. And I think especially now there's not really much of an excuse, because probably the easiest we've had it to maybe build simulations or display evidence, or create situations that you then can demonstrate that you were able to actually have these outputs. So yeah, completely agree. And I think now I'm seeing a lot of new people, and I know at least the people I mentor are creating portfolios. Never done day in GRC, but they're creating scenarios and they're producing real
Mm-hmm.
artifacts that um, recruiters can review and would be relevant if they were to get that job. It demonstrates they're able to actually do the job. They just need an opportunity, because I think now more than ever, as you mentioned, you do need to be a self-starter. Things won't just fall
Mm-hmm.
in your lap at all.
Yeah.
Um, okay, fabulous, thank you. And out of curiosity, what the name Cybersloth? How did the name come about?
Well, one, I have a thing for sloths, so I do enjoy sloths, but it wasn't just something that was floating around as I was doing this. However, when I was in software engineering boot camp, I was spending like 12-hour days. I was going to class and then I was going to the after hours studying because it was so hard. And then I was also in school, and it just took me so long to grasp so many things. And I always would be like, I'm just so slow. I'm slow showing up, like just getting it. I'm pivoting into tech at this point in my life. I just felt like I was slow and late to the party, and everyone knows sloths move slow. And one day I was like, I'm just a cyber sloth. Like I'm just slow here. And it clicked. And I kind of took it and went and kind of built. And I was like, that's kind of catchy. And it just kind of stuck with me. But it was like a pet name that I kind of gave myself, but it was true. I didn't pick things up overnight. But it ended up working out, and I just took my time, but it actually, I'm glad that I moved slow and didn't rush it. Even though I was in like survival mode of needing to pivot, I didn't allow it to rush the process. So um it was a combination of how I felt and then my love for sloths.
Loss. Makes sense. To be honest, it really is a process. I'm also, it took me a little while as well myself. And I feel like I would study a bit more before everyone, more than everyone else, before a meeting or before I had to engage with a stakeholder, because I just felt like it took me a little bit longer sometimes to get into the swing of things. But thank
Yes.
you. So, as we mentioned, you're a cybersecurity career ambassador and mentor. What advice do you find yourself repeating most to people that are entering the industry?
That's a good question. I usually ask them, have you talked to yourself first before you talk to me, before you came? Because sometimes a lot of people, they don't know. They don't know simple responses. And it's not in a rude way. It's just in a, have you taken the time to have a conversation with yourself first? Because I can't give you or tell you your life or your next move. Like you have to have some type of understanding as to what you're trying to build. So you can be inspired by hearing different stories and, um, want to take that same route and think that that's the blueprint to where you're trying to get to. But others people's stories are just inspiration to keep you inspired along the way. So I think I constantly ask them, have you had a little time to talk to yourself and figure out, where are you trying to go? What do you want? because I can hold your hand, but I can't walk you through everything. You have to have some type of knowledge or understanding as to where you're trying to go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And in terms of in general, even outside of GRC, what what sort of opportunities are you seeing most when it comes to cybersecurity? Whether this is in new jobs becoming available, even within GRC, what are the opportunities you're seeing that maybe people may overlook, people may need to consider when they think about cybersecurity?
I think back to what we were just saying, just being proactive, creating opportunities for yourself, connecting with people in the industry, showing up not just for yourself, but just showing up to those events and not being afraid to let people know I'm starting from zero and I'm trying to get here. I think a lot of people aren't willing to be vulnerable. And I'm one of those people that literally started from zero. So much so that I didn't know. I always say I never even knew what a terminal was. So if I could start from zero and pivot, so can you. You just have to be proactive and be willing to be vulnerable, like I said, and expose that, I don't have the experience. I don't have, the knowledge. I don't know which pathway to take. I've done this, I have this, but I really don't know. Can you offer me guidance? And then also volunteering, whether that's volunteering at events as, collecting tickets or greeting people or under any capacity to get you in certain rooms, depending on if you're super early in the industry, volunteering, like I said, as at these events. If you have some experience volunteering for nonprofits, they're always looking for guidance. And that's where I built a lot of my hands-on experience, by volunteering with nonprofits. So just being really proactive. The opportunities I feel like now are going to come from the opportunities that you create for yourself.
I think it's that running theme of proactivity right now. Like you can have as many opportunities as little opportunities. It depends on you and your proactivity. Thank you for that. And someone's just asked and said, "How do you find mentors when you don't know anyone in the industry yet?" So we know sometimes, especially when we're navigating new areas, the importance of having people that have gone and done it before and they have a bit more experience. So how would you find mentors?
So there's those nonprofit spaces. So there's plenty. I mentor on a different for a lot of different nonprofits like Women in Tech or Women in Cybersecurity. It just depends where you're located. And like I said, I always like to reach out to my workforce and economic development departments within my local area, your local chambers. Um, Google. I know that sounds, a little, but if you're active on LinkedIn, maybe make a post. I'm looking for a mentor. But really just advocating for yourself, speaking up is like we were just saying, and advocating for yourself and being vulnerable enough to say, I need help. I need a mentor. I need help. And you're your best advocate.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes you just almost have to be a bit like shameless. You just need to,
Mhm.
search to someone on LinkedIn that you see their career trajectory and you think, yeah, like this is where I may want to see myself, and just reach out to them and ask if they'd be open to mentoring you. And as you mentioned, you'd be surprised how many people are happy to speak with you and
Mhm.
happy to provide guidance. But I think also go with knowing what you want from that person, not just hi, hello, like what's the aim of the call? What is the agenda? Especially if you are speaking to someone that's maybe quite senior that you really admire. I think it's very important to set so the time isn't wasted. Set your intentions, the agenda, what you're looking for, and know that and research that a little bit before you go and sort of approach someone. But yes, thank you.
Yeah. And don't always look for what you can take. See what you can
Yes.
contribute and just be honest. Like, I'm new here. I may not have much experience, but I can do this. Or maybe you have previous background in web development and maybe you want to offer that. Think of it like a barter. Don't always look to take. What can you contribute, even if it's just feedback? But look to see what you can contribute versus what you always can take.
Oh, and that's so important. That is so, so important that you also bring some sort of value. It's not just give me and
Yeah.
then go away after I get what I want, but what can you contribute, even if it's something small, as you mentioned. Thank you. We're slowly coming to time, and for our final question, I wanted to ask, like, if someone watching today that has zero experience but wants to be where you are in the next 3 years, what should they do in the next 30 days? They can't do everything. What
Hmm.
your starting point for the next 30 days for this type of person?
Okay. Um, Zero experience, next 30 days. One, the first thing is get excited. Get excited because you have a blank canvas and you can create and you could do whatever it is that you're looking to do. So get excited and then pause and do some discovery. So this is going to be the first 30 days is your discovery mode. So you're going to be doing research. You're going to write down the skills that you already have. You're going to look to see how they can transfer over. Um, Go get a library card. This is like my number one, always suggestion. Get a library card. So then you can go on Udemy and look at all the free classes that you have because you'll have access to Udemy for free with your library card and watch well, let me go backwards a little bit. Okay, so discover your skills, write down maybe 5 roles that you're interested in, then narrow it down to 3. Then take those 3 roles, get your library card, sign up for Udemy, and take those 3 roles that you've discovered and watch some of the courses. Not all, don't start them, just do like an overview, watch like the intro, course overview, and the one that gets your attention the most, double down on that one and do as much research as you can. What does these roles look like? Go look on Indeed, salary range, everyday role, different companies, different industries, and just get a feel of it first. Don't try to dive in because it gets overwhelming, especially when you're at zero. You don't understand um, even the titles of the job. You don't understand the role. So I would say just immerse yourself on what the role feels like. And the one that you gravitate to the most, when those 30 days are up, you should have like a game plan. At least what jobs you're searching for, what industries and what certifications or what education background that you need. So that's what I would do. Get excited, do research, and immerse yourself in your pivot and be excited that, on the other side, you're going to have something really good waiting for you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rae. I think that even sums up
Yeah.
everything we've discussed quite nicely. Yeah, and it's a pretty solid plan for the next 30 days. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
We look
thank
forward to
you.
seeing you again at some point, but really appreciate your input. And I'm sure that from the questions, I can see that people have benefited from it. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited. I hope there's positive responses and everyone goes and gets their library card. At least go get your library card.
Absolutely. It's been very clear. Thank you so much, Rae.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll be sharing Rae's LinkedIn. Do feel free to connect with her. I'll be sharing that after this session. So do feel free to connect with her. Share your good, positive stories following this session. We'd love to hear it and would love to share it with Rae as well. But thank you all for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. Please, if you would like to join our community, there is a QR code that is on the left-hand side, top left-hand corner of your screen, I believe. Please do scan that, and you'll be able to be kept up to date with any events we have, any resources we have. You'll be able to access that for free. So until next time, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you have a lovely weekend. Take care.